Welcome everybody to this live class where we will discuss together important aspects of the Bergen Academy's admission test. Since you guys are here, I guess you're interested in the Bergen Academies, right? And you guys are probably on track to start the admissions process, or you already did start the admissions process already. And in either case, you need to go as fast as possible. It's a very competitive test, a very competitive process, and it's a long process. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time. So the sooner you start, the sooner you get all your paperwork done, your applications ready, your application essay ready, your prep for the test, your recommendation letters from school, everything. As soon as you get everything ready, it's going to be better. So the sooner the better, okay? So if you didn't start already, or if you still didn't finish all the steps, I think you should do so as soon as possible. Now, you may be watching this class live or as a video when the open houses still didn't start, or when the open houses are already scheduled, around these days, or after the open houses are done. So I'm not really sure when or who will be watching this segment. But for those of you who are with us now live before the end of the open house dates for the Bergen Academies, I encourage you greatly to go attend the open house, take a look at the school, speak with the people over there, understand the process, ask your questions. It's really important. It's super beneficial. Okay? Now, this is very important because you need to know the place where you're applying to, and you need to know the process. They have a cool checklist this year on the website. They didn't have this before, where you can basically, print the paper or something in front of you, or just copy it on something and keep it in front of you, in your room, on your desk, whatever, so that you always check that you're on track and that you're ready for everything. One more thing you need to add to that checklist is your test prep, getting ready for the test. And this is my job. This is basically what I'm going to be talking about. Okay? Let's get into it. First off, guys, let's have a quick overview about the 7 academies that comprise, or that the Bergen County Academies comprises. So the Bergen County Academies has 7 academies, basically. Okay? Now, we do have Bergen Tech, which is a different story, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with if you attended the open house, and if this is where you are applying, or I know some of you may be applying to both the academies and Bergen Tech. So the basic 7 academies are, we have the Science Academy, we call it Science Academy, Science and Tech. We have the Business Academy. We have the Culinary Arts Academy, Engineering, Medical, and Computer Science, and finally Visual and Performing Arts. Okay? So, quickly, those of you attending with us today, let me know in the comments, please, using the chat, what is your first academy of choice? Okay? And it's okay if you don't have one yet, but if you do, let me know. Okay, so we have 1 science, and we have 1 engineering, and we have 1 computer science. Okay, so you guys are varied, and these are actually the most popular: the engineering, computer science, science and technology. Medical is also one of the popular ones. Business is also popular. It's interesting that some years business is really popular, some years it's not. But in most years, science, technology, computer science, engineering, and medical, these 4 are the most popular, with fewer students applying to the culinary arts or visual and performing arts academies. Now, I need to tell you something though. Since most of you guys are interested in the popular academies, and by popular I mean the academies that most students want to apply to, then you need to know that your competition is greater. Okay? So it makes a difference. If there are 1,000 students all applying to the Science and Technology Academy, but only 10 students applying to Culinary Arts Academy, you might have a better chance with Culinary Arts because there are very few students who are interested in entering that academy. Do you understand? So this is something you need to keep in mind. However, This does not mean by any chance that you should change the academy that you want to apply to based on the fact of which one is popular and which one is not. That would be a huge mistake, so don't understand me incorrectly here, okay? Now, what it does mean, though, is that you need to have a clear perspective. You need to know what you're getting into, okay? If I'm applying to BCA, Bergen County Academies, which is a very competitive school, you have thousands of students from Bergen County who are applying to that same school with you. A lot of them are very good students, very smart students, students with very good grades who are excellent in math and English, who will do very well on the test. You need to know the competition. So there is a lot of competition. Now, if you're applying to one of the popular academies, there's even a little bit more competition because this is where most people want to end up. Okay? So you should study really hard. You should prepare for the test really, really well. You should get everything in order, all your paperwork, all your recommendation letters, all your grades, because it's not an easy task, okay? It's very competitive and it is very difficult. I'm not scaring you off here. I'm just telling you that you need to understand the reality of how it is, okay? Let's move on. Now, let's go over a quick overview of the whole process, starting from when you first register and think about becoming a BCA student, all the way till getting your acceptance letter and starting the new school year as a ninth grader in BCA, okay? So basically we have 3 phases. Phase number 1, in phase number 1, you need to register online. Okay, you're going to make an online account on the Bergen County Academies website, okay? You're going to choose a username, a password, and you're going to use your state student ID, SID or NJ Smart, okay? And you will submit an online application that has all your information. From school, you will need to get recommendation letters. So you're going to give recommendation forms to 3 teachers at school and a school transcript form to your guidance counselor or school official, principal, assistant principal, something like that. Now, the 3 teachers are going to send the 3 recommendation forms back to the school, and your guidance counselor will do the same. So the school should receive all this from your school, but you are responsible for giving these forms to the 3 teachers in school and to the counselor in school. And my recommendation is to follow up. So if you give your teachers and you give your guidance counselor the papers, follow up. After 1 or 2 weeks, ask them, okay, was my paperwork completed? Did you send my papers to the academies? Just make sure that you know that they remember and that they're on top of it just in case, okay? Then you're going to have to print an admissions test ticket, and this is what you will use to go on test day and take the actual test. And finally, you will take the test, and this is why you guys are here, to prepare for the test, okay? Now, on test day, remember, you must bring the 6-digit validation number and student ID. These are things that student ID, you should have it already, your school student ID, and the 6-digit validation number is something you should receive from them, okay? If you have any questions whatsoever about what the validation number is, what the admission test ticket should look like, should I print it in color, black and white, for example, black, not black and white. So should I print it in black or should I print it in color? What kind of school ID do I need? I don't have a school ID. My school ID is old. Can I use my passport? Stuff like that. You need to ask them, okay? They're very, very strict about these things, so make sure you ask them, the Bergen County Academies themselves. Don't research online. Don't ask me. Don't ask your older brother or sister or friend who's in school. Go ask the school themselves, okay? Make sure you have everything in place. Now, after you finish this whole process, they will look at your test scores, and these are very, very important in determining whether or not you get into school. The scores, the results of your test. Even though there are no scores per se, and I'm going to explain this in a little while, but they look at your performance on the test along with your school grades, recommendation letters, and everything else. Then, in late February, and sometimes it's not very late in February, sometime in February, they will send decision letters to your home. The decision letter will have one of two things. They will either tell you, we are sorry, you did not pass phase 1, we cannot accept you, God forbid, or they will send you a letter, which we all hope for. That letter is, congratulations, you've made it through phase 1, we are inviting you to an interview. Okay? So, if you get the interview letter, you go have an interview at the academies. You sit with some of the teachers over there. They ask you a few questions. They chat with you a bit. And then you go home. Mid-April, you get another letter, which is your final decision based on phase 1, which was basically the test and your grades, and phase 2, which was your interview. This letter will either say yes, you are in BCA officially, or no, we apologize. Okay? And you're done. If you do get the yes letter, which I hope all of you do, you will have to submit something called a declaration of intent, which is basically a piece of paper saying that you agree to become a student in Bergen County Academies. Like you didn't change your mind or anything. From now all the way till April, things change. Some people change their minds, okay? So no, I didn't change my mind. Yes, I accept. Yes, I will start school at BCA next year, okay? They're going to ask you afterwards to take a placement test sometime before the school year starts, and that's just a math and world language test. You're in school, okay? So it doesn't really matter what you do on this test. So just don't worry about it. It's not another test. There's only one test, this one right here. Okay, so this is just a placement test, so they know where to put you in class. Okay, if you're advanced, if you're not so advanced, what kind of languages you know, so that they can just arrange their classes accordingly. But it's not a test for you to worry about or study for. Okay, now all this information is as accurate as possible and as recent as possible. It's directly taken from the Bergen County Academies Admissions Guide to Applying. And if you guys did not read the guide, the whole guide, you should. It's a PDF file you can find on their website. Okay, it's really important. Read that. Also read anything they have on the website about the academies, about the different academies. Research and know exactly what each academy offers, what you're going to learn in each of those, what the career, prospective careers for graduates from this academy are, how it will help you in the school, the college, university that you want to go to later on. So make sure you research all this. It's really important stuff because that's your future and nobody should be doing it for you. You should be the one who is interested and you should be the one who is trying to know what the future will look like for you. Okay? So this is basically how the whole process goes. Now, it may look like it's a long process and it may look like there are a lot of factors. And that's true. There are a lot of factors. So if you do super well on the entrance test, but your school grades are terrible, or your 3 teachers sent in recommendation forms that basically do not recommend you at all, then you have a slim chance. On the other hand, if you have super good grades from school, you have excellent recommendation letters, then the test will actually make a huge difference, whether you do well or not. The truth is, most students who are applying to BCA, like you guys, are smart kids who have good grades in school, whose teachers will probably write very good recommendation forms or letters. Okay? They probably don't have a problem there. Most of you. Okay? Or else you wouldn't take the chance. So the most important factor that they need to look at when determining who to choose is, whether you like it or not, the entrance test. Because if most of the students applying to BCA have similar school grades, have similar recommendations from their teachers, the only thing that, can keep them apart, like in 2 groups, good and bad, is the test. Okay? Now, I do have bad news about the test, and I'm going to go into more details in a little while. The test does not have a released score. And this is super frustrating to you as students and to me as your teacher, because we work so hard to try to get you guys to get a very good score on the test, to get as many questions as possible right and as few questions as possible wrong. Okay. But at the end, they don't release a score. You are never going to know how you scored on the test. Okay, and that's really frustrating. I hate it, but that's the way it's been for years and years and years, and they don't intend on changing that. Okay, so you're gonna have to study really hard. You're gonna have to go take the test and do your super best, and then you are never going to know how well or how not well you did on the test. Okay, they will know what you did on the test, and they will factor this along with everything else to say yes or no and invite you to an interview or not. Okay, but how well you actually did or what the score actually was, how many math questions you got right, how many math questions you got wrong, you will not know. Okay, quick question. If we have a very good test grade but bad school grades, it could go either way for us. This doesn't relate to me personally, just wondering. Yes, that's true. That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, Anjali, is that most students who have really bad school grades will probably not bother applying to BCA. Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. So most of the students who are applying already have good school grades. That's why, they took the step. Okay, that's why they're taking a class with me. That's why they're watching my YouTube videos. That's why they bought my book. That's why they're going to go and attend the open house, and they're going to do the application and take the forms to school. They already have good grades. If they had bad grades, they wouldn't, bother doing that, probably. Okay? Let's take a look at the other questions here really quickly. But before we do that, let's take a look at what the BCA test actually looks like. So, as I said, the most important part of your process, in my opinion, is the test, because when it all boils down to one simple thing, that the test is the only fair method to choose between you guys, all the people applying to BCA, because grades from different schools are not very equivalent. Recommendation letters from different teachers in different schools are not very equivalent. Only the test, it's one standard test that all students take, can actually be something that I can compare you all together. So it's a very important factor, if not the most important factor. Okay, let's go do this really quickly. Let me tell you what the two parts are, and then I'm going to start looking at some of the questions that you guys sent me and some of the questions that I prepared for you. So first of all, the BCA test, Bergen County Academies test, is divided into two parts. The first part is your essay, and this will be just one essay that you need to write in 45 minutes. The second part of the test is a math test. 40 questions in 60 minutes. One more time. So you only have two parts for your test. Essay, 45 minutes. Math, 60 minutes. 1 hour. Okay? The math test has 40 questions, and the essay test has just one essay. Easy? Super easy. Now, this shows that the total time for the whole test is supposed to be 1 hour and 45 minutes, right? You should probably take about 3 hours during test day, okay? So you will be in the test room for about 3 hours, even though the actual test is 1 hour and 45 minutes, okay? But they need to give you instructions before the test starts. They need to distribute the papers. They need to take them back. You need to fill in the bubble sheet, where you put in your answers for the multiple choice part of the math. You need to hand them back in. They need to count and make sure everything is in place, and then they dismiss you. So it takes about 3 hours, okay? But the actual test will be 1 hour, 45 minutes. 1 hour for math, 45 minutes for essay. Now, in today's class, in our course, we cover everything you need to know for math, everything you need to know for essay. In today's class, we're going to try to have an overview about the most important aspects of both. In our course, we go into details and cover everything you should be ready for and everything you should know. Okay? So let's go into a couple of questions here. First question. Do you have to do particularly poor on the interview to not be accepted, or is it just as hard as the test? So the question basically means, if I do really well on the test, okay, and I get the interview letter, is the interview another test? No. The interview is much easier, if you understand what I mean by easier here, than the test in terms of whether it determines if or not you become a student in BCA. So I had the statistics from a previous year or previous years. I don't have it now. I don't really remember the numbers, but it was something like, just for, for example's sake, so try to pay attention here. Let's say we have 1,000 students who are applying to BCA this year, for example. When you go take the test, only about 30% of the students get the letter for the interview. So that basically means that 30% almost do well on the test if this is the only determinant. And 700 students, which is 70%, do not get the interview letter. Okay? So about 30% of those taking the test and applying do well enough on the test along with everything else to get the interview letter. Then those 300 students, they go to their interview. Now here, the percentages differ. And I honestly don't remember what the statistics were, so this is just an example to show you which one is more important than the other, but don't quote me on these numbers, okay? After the interview, about 200 students, for example, get accepted, and about 100 get rejected, okay? So 200 out of 300, that's about 60%, okay? So here, only 30% passed the test to the next phase, and from the interview, a whole 60% will pass the interview phase and become students at school, okay? Now, these numbers are all made up, but it just basically looks something like this. So the hardest part is the test, okay? And I'll tell you this out of experience, okay? Let's say in any given year, when I have my course, I have my students like you guys, about 70% of them do well on the test and get the interview letter, okay? Now, of those 70% that go to the interview, about 70% of them, or maybe 80% of them, become students in BCA. And only a little fraction, like 10%, 20%, 25%, 30% maximum, don't make it to the next phase. So if you pass the test and you get the interview letter, your chances are now really, really big. Now, one thing though that some people ask me about the interview, and this is really important, so pay attention, please. Do we not pass the interview because of something we did or said? Is there something I should avoid saying or doing on the interview? Is it a test? No, it's not a test. It's basically saying, we have now 500 students, for example. And of these 500 students, we need to accept some and refuse some. We have to. We don't have space for 500 students. So who are we going to accept and who are we going to apologize to? So we have the interview. We get to know the students and we see, well, I think these students are a good fit, okay? The way they think, the way they talk, the ideas they have, they're a good fit for our school. They're going to do well. It's good for them. So let's accept them. These students, I think they're in the wrong place. Okay, they may be smart, they may be good and everything, but they're in the wrong place. They won't do well in school. They won't like BCA. So we're going to apologize to them. So it's not really something you can do well or not well. It's their determination of whether you're a good fit or not for school. So they're going to be thinking about you in the interview. Okay, they're not going to be thinking about them. They're going to be thinking about you. Are you going to succeed and be happy in our school? Then we're going to take you. We don't think you will, be based on our experience with other students, years and years and years of experience. Then we're going to tell you, no, don't come. When we do reach the interview phase, though, hopefully I'll have a class for you guys, a live video. We're going to do something, and I'll help those of you who did get the interview letter. I'm going to help you with some tips on what to do and what not to do during the interview. Okay, but you shouldn't worry about the interview now at all. If you do well on the test and you get the interview letter, you're a genius. Okay, so few people do reach that point. So work on that and forget the interview for now. Okay, another question. Personally, I've had great school grades this year, but last year they were just okay. How does this impact my chances? Now, this is a very important question. And let me just go off topic here for a bit. And I hope I'm not boring you guys, okay? But I really think what I'm saying is important, and I hope I'm right. The whole process of applying to BCA is so similar to the process of applying to colleges, to universities later on in high school. So you really need to take this experience and learn from it, because you will be doing something very similar to this in a couple of years when you're applying to university. Okay? Now, the question is, my grades in 7th grade were okay. They weren't terrible, they were okay. In 8th grade, this year, my grades are, wow, I'm doing really, really well. Is this good or bad? I think it's extremely good, okay? It's even better than if your grades in 7th grade were great and your grades in 8th grade were also great. Why? Because any person who evaluates a student based on his or her grades, whether it is a person evaluating you for Bergen Academies for high school, or a person evaluating you in 11th grade or 12th grade when you're applying to college, they want to see progress, okay? If you were let's say, a 90% student in 7th grade, but in 8th grade you're a 100% student, this is really, really good. It even looks better than if you were 99% in 7th grade and 99% in 8th grade, because I can see you bridged the gap. I can see you did better. Even if you were a 70% student in 7th grade, but now in 8th grade, you're a 95% student. Wow, you did well. You improved yourself. And this is something they want to see, okay? So for now, and for when you apply to college, and when you guys are finishing up high school, it's really important that whoever's evaluating you see a gradual improvement or increase. They don't want someone who's always perfect. They want to see a story. Okay, so yeah, they want to see, well, he wasn't that good, but now look at him. Look what he could do. If he wants to do it, he can. This is the story they want to see. Okay, perfect, great. Okay, I'm happy to hear that. Now, let's take a look at some frequently asked questions. We started the frequently asked questions with questions that you guys asked me. These are some questions that were taken directly from the Bergen County Academy's Admissions Guide to Applying. And as I said before, do read the guide. It's important. So there are a lot of questions there. I chose some of the most popular questions, the ones that I usually receive, with the answers from BCA directly. So these are not my answers. Okay, let's go. Question number 1. Do the admission criteria for the different academies vary? Important. What does that mean? If I want to attend Academy number 1, or Academy number 2, or Academy number 7, the different academies we talked about before, do the criteria, because criteria is a plural word, do the criteria for the admission for each of these academies differ? Let's see the answer. The criteria are the same for all academies, except the Academy for Visual and Performing Arts focuses on the student's audition or portfolio as well. So, no matter what academy you are applying for, the criteria are the same. Your school grades, your recommendation letters, your score on the BCA admissions test, it's all going to be the same, okay? They're not going, that means that, for example, but wait a minute, that's what they're implying, but it's not necessarily true. Listen up. That if I'm applying to engineering, the engineering academies, and I do super well on the math test, but I don't do so well on the essay test, is that the same for all the academies? Well, no, because engineering is all math So he's a math genius. He's not so good in English, but he's a math genius. He's applying to engineering, so, why not? That's something they may think. Here it implies that it doesn't make any difference. But does it not really make a difference? Or do they put this in consideration? You can't tell for sure. I've heard students who told me this, it's like gossip, that if you're applying to an academy that focuses on math, then you need to do really well on the math test. But if you're applying to an academy that doesn't really focus on math, it doesn't make really, matter if you don't do that well on math, that's gossip, okay? The official answer is it's all the same. Now, maybe it would differ in the interview phase, perhaps. Yes. Okay. What does that mean? So let's say Matt and Zachary both got past phase 1. They did really well. They got the interview letters. Okay. And now they are in the interview together. And they're both applying to the Engineering Academy. Engineering Academy is very math-centric. There's a lot of math in engineering. Matt, because of his name, is a math genius. Matt and math. Zach is not so good in math. Do you think this is something that they will look at during the interview? Perhaps. Yes. Okay. They don't say here that they will. They don't say that they won't. Okay, but perhaps. Now, in my opinion, you need to be on the safe side. The way I play this game is get 100%. So my advice to you is get 100% in the math portion, get 100% in the essay portion. Okay? Do perfectly well on the test and forget about all this. Next one. Are there limits on how many students can be accepted from one town? Now, this is another important question. But before I answer this question, let me tell you that whenever anybody sends me this question, I worry. Why? Because what they're basically thinking is, my town has a lot of students applying to BCA. And most of those students are really smart students. So I don't really stand a chance. My friend lives in a town where very few students are applying to BCA, and most of them are not so smart. So he has a much better chance. Okay? So you start to give yourself a kind of excuse. You understand? You give yourself an excuse before you even try studying, before you even go and take the test. It's like, yeah, well, I live in this town and we have like 500 students applying to BCA. I have a really, really slim chance, even if I do really well in the test. So you're giving yourself an excuse. And this negativity will, not help you. It will be detrimental to you. It will be, yeah, exactly. You're going to have a big problem. So don't think that way. Anyway, let's answer the question. Are there limits on how many students can be accepted from one town? Yes, there is a limit on the number of students we can accept from a high school district. That number is based on the enrollment of the local high school, which basically means if, let's see, in Hackensack, for example, we have 1,000 high school students. Okay? And in, tell me, Teaneck, okay, we have 500 high school students. Just an example, okay? Now, we will accept only 10% from each town. So what's 10% from Hackensack? That's 100 students. What's 10% from Teaneck? That's 50 students. Okay, so the Bergen County Academies can only accept a maximum of 100 students from Hackensack and a maximum of 50 students from Teaneck. That's basically what their answer says, okay? The numbers are all made up. I have no idea how many high school students there are in Hackensack or Teaneck. Okay, if anybody knows, let me know. So, this is basically what they're saying. But here there's another factor. If you live in Hackensack, does this mean that you have a better chance of becoming a student in BCA because BCA will take a whole 100 students from Hackensack? And your chance, if you lived in Teaneck, would be worse because it's only going to take 50 students from Teaneck? Yes or no? What do you think? This is a math question. It's a question that can come on the test. Okay? I hope it does. Tell me. if VCA will accept a maximum of 100 students from Hackensack and a maximum of 50 students from Teaneck. Does this mean that your chances of becoming a VCA student are greater if you live in Hackensack than if you lived in Teaneck? Yes or no? Okay, statistically, if you look at the numbers, perhaps yes. But if you look at how they accept students, it will be a no. Why? Because how many students from Hackensack are applying to VCA? What if there are 99 students applying from Hackensack to VCA? Well, maybe you do have a good chance. But what if there are 900 students from Hackensack applying to VCA? Then you probably have a very slim chance because they will only accept 100 out of 900 people. Okay? Whereas in Teaneck, what if you have 100 students applying, but we're only going to take 50? Well, that's not bad because you're taking 50 out of 100 who applied. Here, if you have 900 students applying and you're only going to take 100, that's a much smaller percentage. That's one thing. The other thing is, it's all about competition. It's all about how good your grades are and how good you do on the test. So what difference does it make if 1,000 students from my town are applying, but I'm the smartest, I'm the best, I will do the best on the test, I have the best grades? Does it make a difference how many other people are applying to you? Doesn't make any difference to you, right? Because you are the top of all of these people. On the contrary, if only 5 students are applying and you're one of those 5, but you're the worst one, you're the last one, the 4 are much better than you are, then you have a very bad, slim chance. Okay? Good. Next one. Can my son change his first choice academy once he has applied? A popular question I get a lot, and here the answer is directly from Bergen Academies. They say yes. Choices can be changed until Friday, January 20th, and this, I believe, was from, I think, 2018. So based on the year you're applying, it will differ, the deadline, but it will be after the test, okay? Once a student has been accepted into one of our academies, the preferences cannot be changed. Now, this is really important. Remember when I told you before that if you are applying to a popular school, a popular academy, you might have a harder time getting into that academy than if you were applying to one of the less popular academies, remember? Now, it really won't make a difference before the test or until the test. Why? Because till test day, it doesn't really make a difference. The criteria are the same, like we said. But according to them, somewhere in the second or third week in January, after the test has been done, you cannot change your preference. So that means that they may put which academy you are applying to as part of the decision of whether to send you the interview letter in February or not. I'm going to say this one more time. Now, again, this is all my speculation, okay? So that nobody, misquotes me. Bergen County Academies are very secretive about the admissions process, okay? We don't know exactly what happens. But what they say is the criteria are the same. So no matter what academy you are applying to, it's the same for everybody. But they also say that you cannot change your choice of academy after a certain date in January. That means that by January 20th, for example, they know for sure each student applying to VCA wants to go to which academy, and you cannot change it. Okay? Now, will this affect how they choose who gets the interview letter in February or not? Perhaps, most probably does. Okay? Anyway, once you do get accepted, after the interview and after the whole process is done, so in April probably when you get accepted, you cannot change anything. And again, the wording here may imply that once you get the interview letter, you cannot change anything as well. So we're not really sure what it means once a student has been accepted. Is it the interview letter or is it the actual acceptance letter in April? However, they do say that choices can be changed until January 20th, and this is the date for one of the years, so it's going to be around that time. which basically means that after that you can't change it. So, so you cannot change after a certain date. You can change though until the date they have. And if you want to know what this year's date is, ask them directly. Don't rely on anything written anywhere. Ask them directly. Make sure you know what the updated date is. Next question. What was my daughter's score on the entrance test? And this is one of the questions I get a lot. And it's one of the questions that, as I said before, touch on an important issue, something that I really am frustrated with, something I do not like. Okay, but it's, they put the rules and it's their, responsibility to manage the whole thing the way they see fit. But in my personal opinion, I do not like this. What is this? Your score on the entrance test will remain a secret forever. Okay? You'll never know what you did on the test. They will not tell you. Okay? You'll do your best. They'll score the test. They'll have some kind of score, okay? A number, a letter, a percentage. They will have something that represents the score you did on the test. But they will not tell it to you no matter what. Due to the highly confidential nature of the admissions process, and to keep it unbiased for all applicants, we do not discuss how decisions are reached, the reasons why an applicant is not accepted, or why one applicant is selected over another. Additionally, we do not release an applicant score on the entrance test. Since it is not a norm test, there is no way for applicants to know what the scores represent, and it would cause needless competition. Now, I do not agree with this final sentence here. Okay, not being a normed test doesn't mean anything. Okay, you have 40 math questions. You can tell me how many I got right and how many I got wrong. That's it. Okay, that's all I want. Essay, okay, I understand. You may not be able to give me a number or a letter for essay that I can understand fully, but maybe you can tell me, well, essays are graded according to 3-letter grades, A, B, and C. You got an A, you got a B, you got a C. What does that mean? I don't have to tell you, but you need to know what you did. As for math, it's even easier because the questions, the answer is either right or wrong. It's a multiple choice test. So I think they should tell you. They don't want to tell you, and this is the way it's been for many years. So don't expect anybody to tell you what you did. It's frustrating, but you need to know from now. Okay? Okay. Quick question. What if I do really well on the test, but other people do even better? Do I still have a chance? Nobody knows. Because as I said, they will not release the scores. So you can't compare your scores to anybody else's. You can't know that your friend, John, got 2 questions more correct than you did, and that's why John got the interview letter and you didn't, for example. You'll never know. But what the question means is, what if I feel I did really, really well, but there were like 2 questions that I guessed on, 2 questions I wasn't really sure about. So I think I got 38 questions right out of 40. I may be wrong in 2, so, maybe 36 out of 40, 35 out of 40, not less than that. I really think that's what I got. What do you think? Me. I think that's a great score. If you got 38 out of 40, you got 36 out of 40, you did really well. But how do I not know that there are 1,000 students who got 40 out of 40? I have no idea. Okay? So you won't know. That means you have to do your best. So, summary, guys. To summarize, what should I do on the test in order to feel that I have a good chance of getting my interview letter? I should do my very best. I should try to get 100% full mark, nothing wrong. Okay? Now, is this possible? It definitely is. Is it probable that I don't miss 1 question? Not quite, okay? You may miss 1 or 2 questions. Most people will. But you should aim to getting 100% nothing wrong. But you can't do that on test day out of thin air. You need to prepare before. So if you prepare really well, you study really well, you take a class, you take a course like our course, you read books, you do a lot of practice, and you go to the test feeling prepared and you do your very best, you should not worry about anything else. But if you under-prepare, if you don't get ready for the test the way you should, then you will have a problem on testing. Okay? Great. So to summarize, everybody, from our live class for the Bergen County Academies admission test, the test is the most important part of the process. It is the one part that they will probably look to the most when they try to decide who gets in and who doesn't. The test is very difficult, very competitive. You should do your best because you're not going to know your score. So you should work really hard from now all the way till test day. If you are unprepared or underprepared, you will do not well. You will do really, really badly on the test. But if you prepare really, really well, you will do very, very well. Remember, it's a competitive test. You have a lot of smart students taking the test with you, and you have a lot of smart students who are preparing for the test from now. So don't fall behind. Get ready, start preparing, start working so you can get in. Okay?